There comes a moment in every person's life when they find true love. The whole world stands still, your heart skips a beat, and you feel a perfect chemistry that's unparalleled to any other sensation you felt before. For Dan, this moment occurred at his first supervision in Cambridge when he locked eyes with his director of studies, the university-renowned chemist, Dr. Nick Bampos. Hi everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Arjun, and I met Dan, or Cam Dan, as we call him, on my first night at university. We instantly became friends, not because we had obviously compatible personalities or because we did the same subjects, but rather because we were wearing identical shoes that night. A pair of Velcro trainers from Burton. As you can see, 11 years on, though Burton has disappeared from the high street, the pattern of wearing matching clothing carries on today. I'm going to spend the next few minutes talking about a few memories of Dan and give some words of advice to Lizzie as they start their married life together. First, I'd like to thank you all for attending and give a special thanks to the bride and groom and everybody else in organising such a great wedding, particularly in these trying and uncertain circumstances. I'd also like to thank my team of groomsmen. It's been a privilege today being a part of the team with you guys. So we have Chris, myself, Arjun, we have Ollie, and we have Simon, or for short, taking our initials, Team Chaos. So I'm sure you're all wondering, why do we call him Cam Dan? Well, when Dan first arrived at Trinity Hall, he realised he was in a year group with 4 people named Dan. And if he was going to avoid slipping into irrelevance, he needed himself a cool nickname. An even more important task after he heard the less than complimentary nicknames bestowed upon his namesakes. Sleazy Dan couldn't be with us tonight. As an exercise nut, Dan had naturally signed up for every sporting activity on offer at Freshers Week. Perhaps for sporting success, he could earn himself a complimentary nickname. By excelling at punting, for instance, maybe Aquadan would catch on. Unfortunately for him, fate had other ideas. See, as Dan was getting psyched for punting, contemplating what power pose he was going to strike in triumph, he failed to notice that water had splashed onto the back of the boat. So as he took his place on the stern, he slipped and he fell backside first into the River Cam. And thus he was christened Cam Dan. Oh, and in case you were wondering, Dan did go to every sports tryout that week. At the rowing tryouts, his crazy level of fitness meant that he posted the best erg times. But when it came to the technical side, he left a lot to be desired. Lizzie, you should know, the coach commented that after Dan had tried rowing in every seat, he was still useless in every position. And the only time he demonstrated any sort of grace was if the cops kept barking clear instructions at him. I hope you're ready to lead the first dance. Right, tip number 1. Lizzie, I'm sure you already know, I'm sure everybody else in the room has picked up by now, Dan gets extremely competitive, and only superlative results and descriptions will do. I can only imagine the agony it caused him when he couldn't name himself the best man at this wedding. This competitiveness extends back to his school days, where Dan's unwavering spirit helped him become the undisputed king of long-distance running, remaining undefeated in all sports days and school cross-country races. So a few years later, when he encountered an old rival and fellow chemist, Adam, at a park run, you'd assume that with his school crown unassailable, he'd just be pleased to see his old colleague and run a nice, pleasant, friendly race. Well, Joey doesn't share food, Dan doesn't do friendlies. That supposedly dormant teenage competitive spirit was alive and kicking, and as it turns out, after having watched Adam pip him to the finish line on the final straight, so was that associated stroppiness that comes along with defeat. Dan reacted in the only way he knows how. he accidentally forgot to invite Adam to the pub to which the group was heading post-race. So the superlative title of fastest runner amongst the patrons would still belong to him. Another example of this that comes to mind. One time on a night out, we decided to go out, not on a student night, but on a night when the locals go out. There was just a group of us, most of whom were there, and included two lovely ladies, Abisola and Iliana. And when we were out that night, there were a couple of gentlemen who took quite a liking to both of them, and decided to come over and impress the girls by showing off their muscles, including one guy who decided he would show off a bit of ab tone he had going on. Now Dan saw this as an affront and took the opportunity to rip off his shirt and show the chiseled abs to the whole club. Title of Greek god that night surely belonged to him. The story about Adam leads me nicely into my second piece of advice. Lizzie, never underestimate Dan's capacity for playing practical jokes. Much like the Marvel character Nightcrawler, Dan has a particular passion for climbing buildings and sneaking into otherwise secure areas for the purposes of playing tricks. My earliest recollection of this is when our friend, Ivy, who lived on the 4th floor, stepped out onto his balcony one morning to find the laundry he was drying gone. And in its place, Dan's calling card, an everyday item that warns of chaos and disruption, but now in the minds of his victims, is inextricably linked to Dan's mischief. A traffic cone. I, for one, can never look at one in the same way again. One time, after deciding to leave a night out early, I woke up in my room the next morning to find the entrance barricaded, my turnstash of snacks gone, and pictures of myself asleep in my bed posted all over Facebook. And of course, in the spot where my treats once sat, you guessed it, a traffic cone. And it wasn't just his friends who suffered. Robinson College, St John's College, King's College, Downing College, the Mahal Curry House, Marks and Spencer's. Nobody and no establishment was spared. So Lizzie, the moral of the story here is, if you ever find the need to build yourself a woman cave, get the full security package. I'm talking cameras, infrared sensors, tripwires, the lot. And keep your eye out for any roadworks in the area. One superlative, though, that I think would definitely ascribe to Dan, is his unparalleled tolerance, non-judgmental character, and open-mindedness. Out of all of us, he truly has the long... Dan, I can't read your writing. Fuse. Nothing perhaps exemplifies this better than Dan's attitude to Christianity. Back in school, Dan's view of religion was sceptical, to say the least. But fast forward a few years, Dan took part in the Christian Union's 2010 Text to Toasty event, and having considered the ideas and digested the tomato and cheese mountain treat, experienced a change of heart. The rest of us doubted him, laughed at the irony of this episode, but Dan remained dedicated to this day, despite a suspected brief foray into the religious ways of the Jedi at graduation dinner, much to the disapproval of the Trinity Hall Pool Club. But the question remains, exactly what caused Dan to go from heretic to Saint Daniel? Well, he told myself and Biodan in the immediate aftermath, I'm feeling something, guys. I'm feeling it here. My conclusion was that he'd actually been pointing at his stomach. I was referencing the toasty. So the practical takeaway is, if you ever find yourself needing to convince him to do the chores, to eat vegetarian food, or calm him down after he gets stroppy after you beat him at a friendly game of FIFA, you need not be worried, as long as there's a toasty maker in the house. And it's not too late to add him to the wedding list. Finally, Lizzie, you might be competitive, He might have an unhealthy obsession with exercise in the outdoors and traffic cones. But he also has a big heart, and not just because of the exercise. A conversation I don't think I'll ever forget took place one night in my second year. I'd just been accepted to study abroad for my third year, and he could tell I was getting cold feet, feeling unsure about whether I was making the right choice, and what it would mean for my relationships I was leaving behind. He took me aside and let me know that they was really going to miss having me around. He was proud of my decision, and he had no doubt that I'd make a success of it, and gave me a massive bear hug at the end. And though it annoyed me at the time, during the rest of that exam term, he hammered on my door every morning at 8:30 a.m. sharp, just to make sure I didn't oversleep and risk flunking my exams and miss out on the opportunity. He supported me when I needed it the most, and I knew from that point on, we'd be friends forever. I probably heard about your relationship after you'd been dating for a few months. Listening to Dan speak about you, Lizzie, I could already tell there was something special at work. And it's no great surprise to see you here today, getting married. You can be sure that in Dan, you've got someone who always want the best for you, won't trivialise any problem, and always will emotionally support and encourage and believe in you, even when you might not believe in yourself. And I've got no doubt he'll be a devoted and caring husband. And Dan, you've contributed to some of my fondest memories over the year. I just want to say, thanks for your friendship, congrats on being married, it's been an honour being your best man. Right, and before I hand over to Dan for his speech, I want to make two more points. There were lots of deleted scenes from his speech, as you can imagine. There's cross-dressing involved, and there's Dan's take on the film How to Lose a Girl in 10 Days. The two aren't related, unfortunately. But just remember, we do have a half-an-hour window at the end when Dan has left, and you can come to me and I will spill the goss. And last, but by no means least, I'd like to say thanks to the bridesmaids, who not only managed to get Lizzie here in good time, but also in charge of getting her ready. And I think you'll all agree with me that they've done a fantastic job. So, ladies and gents, if you could please all stand and raise your glasses. To the bridesmaids.
Right, thank you, Arjun, for that illuminating speech. Sorry to Barbara and Malcolm, actually, that you had to sit through that. It was surprisingly accurate, which I'm surprised at, because Arjun was drunk 50% of the time. But yeah, I'm sorry. The paperwork's already signed though, so... thank you all once again for being here to share this day with us, my beautiful bride and myself. As we officially become Team Dizzy. Yay! It's really lovely to have everyone together, especially after the last year or so. This just goes to show it is possible to plan a wedding in just 2 months. I wouldn't advise it, but it can be done. Of course, this day wouldn't have been possible without the help of various people. I have a lot of thank yous to get through in my speech. I think I've got the hardest speech because I've got to use. I've got to use precious minutes. So I'm going to start pretty early. Firstly, I'd like to thank Barbara and Malcolm. Firstly, for bringing up such a wonderful daughter. And secondly, for welcoming me so warmly into your lives. You guys have been a tremendous help to us, Lizzie and myself, in the planning and execution of today, so thank you very much. Mum, Dad, I'm pretty sure most people in this room would like to thank you guys for bringing up such a wonderful son. Seriously though, I don't say it enough, but I do really appreciate all the support you guys have given me over the years, and especially the preparation and today. So thank you, guys. I've mentioned all those that helped with the ceremony in the order of service, but I'd like to thank them all once more, really briefly. So to Sarah for her singing. Dan and Rachel for their readings. Jonathan, who he's there filming me. And Matt for doing the videography. And to Ellie for making sure we actually had an order of service today. They're not actually here right now, but I wanted to thank Sue, Kay, Rebecca and Steve for kindly serving the drinks to everyone after the service. I think they're coming back later for the dancing, so if you guys see them, do say thanks as well. Huge thanks also to Amy and Michael for stepping up to take some of the photos during and after the service. So I should probably say before I start, and we've actually had 3 amazing speeches so far, so the pressure is all on me to headline this show. But with everything else going on, I actually left this to the last minute and put this speech together, I think Wednesday night, Thursday morning. I was a bit unsure how to film 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes. So I thought I'd use up a bit of time by getting Lizzie to do some of the talking.
Whoa.
Can someone turn... Oh, sorry. There are actually some of the answers to the quiz in this speech, so look carefully. That was 99% Lizzie. I did the bit where I wrote my name in the credits. A couple of editorial things halfway through, but yeah, one more job. So I guess I should probably use some of my own material at this point. As most of you know, Lizzie and I met online. However, you might not know that we almost didn't meet. We matched on Tinder almost 5 years ago, I think it's next week. We were chatting online for a few days. I thought it was going pretty well actually, and I was about to ask her out. then she's just stopped responding to me. Not my deal. Fast forward 2 months, and I got a message from her out of the blue. It turns out, he who must not be named had asked her out first. Who at this point, it's fine. But Lizzie was completely honest about the whole situation, said it was totally over now, but she understood if I was done talking to her. I'll admit, I was a bit miffed about the whole radio silence thing for 2 months, but on the other hand, I was so intrigued to meet her. Both of us very nearly didn't send those messages, and we wouldn't be here today if we hadn't. We finally met just before Christmas. This is 2016. It went really well, and coffee swiftly turned into lunch. She told me one day, she told me about her dream of one day opening a gluten and dairy-free bakery. And her love of board games. No mention of that horse racing game. I was really keen to see her again before I went back to my parents for Christmas, so we planned to meet a few days later. At this point, I had come down with a very nasty flu, which I blame Peter Con for entirely. I was off work and spent the intervening days frantically trying ever more ridiculous natural remedies, none of which I can share today because they're far too cringe. But none of them worked, and I had to cancel at the last minute. But we exchanged messages over the holiday. I made the mistake of telling my parents I'd met this lovely girl. So for the next 2 weeks, whenever I looked at my phone, my mum would just appear out of nowhere and ask me how it was going with Lizzie and whether she would need to buy a hat. Over in the Pymm household, things were a little different. Unsure as to my intentions after having been stood up, Lizzie didn't actually mention me to her parents for another 6 weeks. But we finally met again in early January and went on that second date that I owed her. Those first few months went by in a blur. I just remember always looking forward to Wednesdays and weekends where I get to spend time with her. I'm feeling so very thankful for having met her. Our first trip away was to the New Forest, which has since become a very special place for us. We loved cooking. I got this wrong. We loved running, apparently. And cooking. And spending time in nature together. I had one job on that slide. We came up with our own traditions, the little things that make us, us. Movie night Fridays, pancake Sundays, and wine every day. Holidays and exciting trips away together for our birthdays. But perhaps my favourite tradition was us redoing our first date each year. Even COVID actually gave us a break last December so we could go out to our special place. We always used to spend Christmas apart with our families, but our first date tradition gradually grew into dizziness. Basically the same as your standard Christmas, mulled wine, turkey, presents, Michael Bublé. Just a few days earlier. A couple of years into our relationship, I knew things were getting pretty serious, and Lizzie had become such an integral part of my life. I couldn't actually remember a time when I didn't know her, and I couldn't picture a future without her at the very centre of it. The decision to marry Lizzie was a simple one, really. The decision to marry into her family, on the other hand, well, that was another matter. The Pymms, they're a unique bunch. I'll go with unique. Remember, these were the kinds of people that wouldn't think twice about messing up a loved one's chances of winning a horse race. They would spend their Sunday afternoons playing interactive Pluto, a game they invented themselves, where they would run around the house brandishing fake weapons and attempting to murder one another. So, I mulled this over for a fair while before deciding I could live with this kind of behaviour from my future in-laws. The next question was how to propose. It was October 2019 when I decided to plan that surprise trip for our 3rd anniversary Dizzymas weekend. Now, I'm quite traditional, so I wanted to get Barbara and Malcolm's blessing before actually proposing. And I decided to drop by one evening to tell them about my plans. They were quite difficult to pin down, even though they're both retired. The only day that I could guarantee them being around was a Thursday, after Lizzie had gone round for dinner. So I looked at my calendar, and for one reason or another, the only date that was available to me was the 31st of October. No problem. Yeah, I'll just do it then. Cool. In hindsight, this was not the best of plans. So I arrived at their house at 10 PM on Halloween, dressed in black, and if I'm totally honest, looking pretty darn shifty. I'd worked hard up to this point to keep things a secret from Lizzie, and I didn't want to mess things up now by running into her. In my head, the logical thing to do was to nip round to the rear garden, peer in through the back window, and confirm that it was indeed a Lizzie-free zone. I've been told since that this is not normal behaviour. It made sense in my head at the time. It's funny, Arj should mention about those, what would you call it, woman cave and security systems, something like that. So I went round to the back of their house, and what I hadn't planned for was the Pymm household / fortress having an industrial grade spotlight on the rear wall, which was activated by my movements, noble as they were. So I rapidly dived for cover and retreated to the front. Fortunately, Lizzie texted me at this point, confirming she was now safely tucked up in bed, so I rang the doorbell and waited. And waited. I must have stood there for a good minute or so, oblivious to the debate going on the other side of the glass as to who could possibly be calling them at 10 PM, sorry, 10:30 at this point actually, on Halloween, and whether they should ignore the door. But they decided to risk it, and the rest, as we know, is history. Though I have noticed that they tend to watch my movements. Now, the proposal itself. The engagement ring was one of 3 special presents that Lizzie and I exchanged that weekend. It was a very significant weekend for us. First date, Dizzymas, 3 years, serious stuff. The second was Lizzie's video, which I showed an edited version of at the start. Obviously the first one didn't say Dan proposed, because I hadn't at that point. That's probably the best present I've ever received. I almost teared up when you walked down the aisle today. I did tear up on that day. I won't be shy about admitting it. 7 seconds is all it took for me to burst into tears. As for Lizzie, the third gift on that day was possibly the most significant. Now, as we've heard from Malcolm, and those that know her well will appreciate just how much she loves bears. In fact, we've got a couple here today on the top table, very much enjoying their wedding day. So after dropping hints that she would like not only a ring from me, at some point, but a cuddly toy as well, along came Percy the polar bear, who would later provide a ridiculous amount of entertainment during lockdown. We grew closer together during that time and probably further away from reality and everyone else. I can't share any of the in-jokes today because they're too niche. So he couldn't be here today, obviously. There was a 2-bear limit on the top table. But he sent us a message anyway. So my minimum requirements for this speech, I think it's quite a hard speech to do actually because of all the various things I've got to cover. But firstly, thanking people, and secondly, saying nice things about my lovely wife. But there was really one thing that I was interested in, and that was getting this guy into the speech. I won't tell you exactly what I said when I proposed to her, but I will tell you that it went down pretty well. So well, in fact, she asked me to do it all over again the next day, in the middle of Winchester. And we never looked back. So Lizzie, this last bit is just for you. I love and admire you so much. I love how much you care about people, how much you care about doing the right thing, even if that's not always obvious what the right thing is. I love how you always make time for me and for others, and how you inspire me to be a better person. For once in my life, I'm not actually fixated on the end destination, because the journey going there with you is enough for me. You're my best friend, and I'm so excited to spend the rest of my life with you. There are handkerchiefs in my place. if you need them. Yes, I'm so excited to spend the rest of my life with you. Till the end of time, you might say. I love being a part of Team Dizzy, and the life that we're building together. Thanks just for being you. I'll bring this one to a close by running through a few more thank yous to my groomsmen for making this day run like clockwork. I really tried to get involved, but you told me to go away and get drunk and enjoy my day. So, cheers, guys. I think it's quite fitting you guys should be helping to clear away the rubbish today. As you've been sorting out my life messes for years now. To the bridesmaids, for making sure Lizzie didn't stand me up on today of all days. Thank you. And finally, because we haven't actually got to this part of the day yet, to Abby, for an absolutely stunning wedding cake that is on the table at the back there. I can only imagine the work that's gone into that. And we're so grateful for you, to you for giving up your time to make it. We had a minor cake catastrophe yesterday, where the cake should be like this, and it was like this. So you did some minor DIY at the last hour, and it looks fantastic, so thank you very much. I think that's everyone I need to thank. I really hope I haven't missed anyone out, but if I have, please take it up with Lizzie as she wrote this paragraph of the speech. So I think we've got 10 potential toasts in there, but I'd like to round off by coming back to where Malcolm started. I realise this is slightly unconventional as I'm essentially toasting myself. But it is my wedding day and I can basically do whatever I want. So I think I speak for Lizzie and myself when I say we've absolutely loved having you all here today. We hope you guys have enjoyed being here as much as we loved having you. Thank you for being honorary members of Team Dizzy for the day. So let's toast ourselves. You guys be upstanding? To Team Dizzy.
Well done.
actually got one more thank you. I kind of grouped him in with the groomsmen because I was short on time. But I've been so impressed with how Arjun, my best friend and my best man, has run today. Amazing speech. I'm glad you left out certain things. Thank you very much. But
10:30 PM, everybody.
I would have forgotten about that. But no, thanks for being my best friend, mate, and you've really earned the title of best man today. I'll take it and give it to you.